We are at the start of May. When do you sell in the 2025 bull run? That is what we're going to talk about today in this video. And I'm going to give you 3 ways to get out of the market. Now, what we're going to talk about today is dollar cost averaging out. That means that you don't sell everything in one go, but you sell a percentage of your portfolio over a period of time. Today, we're going to look at 3 different scenarios, 3 different ways for you to dollar cost average out. Not one of them is perfect, may I add, but I'm going to tell you which one I'm going to use at the end of this video. Now, before we begin, can we please ask you to like and subscribe to Crypto Warehouse and help us grow the channel? Now, the first one is based on technical analysis. This is based on looking at things like the weekly RSI, looking at support and resistance levels. This is the first way to consider getting out of the market. This takes away all of the drama of macro environmental news. This takes away all of the drama of politics, of chart action, of potential black swans in the market, and it gets down to the actual prices. Now, if you followed us, you know we're a massive fan of Ben Cowan. Ben Cowan runs into the cryptoverse, and the majority of what he talks about on his channel is based on technical analysis. So it's not a bad place to start. Now, the 2 areas that you should really be looking at for this are the moving average. Now, we talk a lot about the bull market support band on this channel, and the bull market support band is just a moving average of 2 prices. 2 prices which give you the previous price action of Bitcoin, for example, over a period of time. When Bitcoin moves away from this, severely moves away from this, then you know you are reaching all-time highs. Now, I'm going to leave some graphics on the screen throughout this video so you can see exactly what I am talking about. And this tends to time the top pretty much to perfection because it's the blow-off top that everybody talks about. And this is a really good analogy. It's a blow-off top. Everything shoots up irrationally. Potentially retail are back in the market. Potentially they are not, but potentially retail are back, and they will start looking to buy the top. They become your exit liquidity. So that's the first one. Now, key resistance levels is a difficult one to use because you'll have to use psychological resistance levels. If Bitcoin breaks 110,000, it'll be at all-time highs and it will be in price discovery. You could probably use the fib levels to give you an idea of the direction. But psychologically, what would be the psychological prices that would make you think we're near the top? 150,000, 200,000, absolutely certainly. And 250,000, not 255, 250,000. They're potentially your 3 psychological barriers. The same way that shops charge you $9.99 or $14.99. They never charge you 10 or 15. They always charge you 1 cent less because psychologically it appears cheaper. If that's the case, then look at 149,000, 198,000, 247,000. They would be your areas to get out of the market, but only if based on the RSI, you are way above where you should be. Look at the support and resistance levels. Are we too high and too far away from the bull market support band? So that is my first option for you, the technical analysis of the markets. My second is the market cycle. Where are we in the market cycle? That's the next one for me. Now, we have said on this channel for over a year now that the all-time high that we think Bitcoin will reach will be in November 2025. And at the start of this year and at the end of last year, you had people telling you that it was going to be April and May. Maybe it will be, we don't know just yet. But based on the 4-year cycle, based on it being 18 months after the halving, that would put us somewhere towards the end of this year. Now, the reason I'm making this video is I think we are 6 months away from the all-time high. Now, again, we can be wrong. This is only our opinion, but we think the all-time high will be in November. If the all-time high is in November, we've got 6 months to cement our exit strategy. Now we know that 2026 is, according to the experts, going to be a year with recession. Now, a recession is 2 quarters of negative growth. That could be minus 0.01%, minus 0.1%, or minus 0.2%. It doesn't matter. As long as it's negative, that is the signal of a recession. Now, if that's the case, then that's going to drag everything down. The stock market will come down, crypto will come down, risk on assets will fall. And the likes of gold, potentially $3,500, $3,750, $4,000 for gold are all on the cards next year. So, what else pushes us towards November? If we look at the macroeconomic climate, interest rate cuts are coming in 2025. Inflation appears to be under control. The housing market is cooled off, and unemployment is still slightly moving up, but it's in a good position as far as Chairman Powell is concerned. Now, what Chairman Powell wants to do is stimulate the economy without causing it to overheat and therefore push inflation up. So I think everything is primed for 2, maybe 3 rate cuts in the next 6 months. If that's the case, and the money printer gets turned back on, then we're going to see that money flow into risk on assets and potentially the blow off top. So that's option 2, is we look at the cycle. And that would be, for me, November. That's where I think the cycle ends this year. Now, it did end on November the 24th, 2021. That doesn't mean it's going to be November the 24th, 2025. It means that that's the area. It could be the end of October. It could be the middle to the beginning of December. It could even be the 1st of January. But it's around that period in time. And it's important because we're going to look at something else in a minute, and that's to do with the length of time that you have to dollar cost average out. Now, my final way to get out of this market is a simple one and a personal one to you, and that is a price target. If, for example, you have a clear goal in your mind, $100,000 for argument's sake, and we get to July 2025 and your portfolio is sitting at $105,000, you sell everything because that's your goal. Now, maybe that goal is to pay off your mortgage. Maybe that goal is a deposit for a new house. Maybe that goal is to pay off debts, pay for your school fees for your kids, whatever it might be. If that is your target, you sell, and it's a personal target. Remember what we say on this channel all the time. You run your own race. You are not running the race of another member of Crypto Warehouse. You're not running my race. You are running your own race. And nobody should tell you not to sell. If somebody is telling you not to sell, they do not have your best interests at heart. We talked about the M&M theory on this channel before, where the crypto influencers are telling you that we're going to go higher and higher and higher because in their own little way, they are dollar cost averaging out while keeping you in the market. That's why they're doing it. They're telling you that we're going to go to $500,000 because they know we're never going to reach that. They're telling you that Ethereum is going to $25,000 or $50,000 because they know, and we know, that we're never going to get there this cycle for that. So they're keeping you in the market so they can get out. But the price of Bitcoin, the value of your portfolio, if it's at a certain target, please don't fall foul of FOMO. Now, let's say your target is $100,000, and in July we've had a bit of a run that's taken only a week or so, and we're sitting at $150,000 in your portfolio. Sell the $100,000 that you want to lock in. Nobody in the history of trading went broke taking profits. They went broke holding an asset too long, quite rightly selling an asset too early, over leveraging and being shorted, yes, but not taking profits. Your job is to create some kind of financial freedom. And whether you make 10,000 or 100,000 this cycle, the important point here is that when you hit your target, you take your profits. Now, again, there are many other ways of doing this. If your target is 100,000 and you're at 150,000, take 75 off the table and keep 75 in. Yes, that's another strategy, fine. But it doesn't matter where Bitcoin goes or Ethereum goes or Solana goes. If you need $100,000, 100,000 euros, 100,000 pounds, you sell. So the price target gets hit, the portfolio target gets hit, and you are out. I have my own portfolio target that may or may not be hit this cycle. But if that's the case, then we look at option number 2. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is how to get out of the market. So before I wrap this up, let's very briefly go through how to get out of the market. I did say at the start, this is dollar cost averaging out of the market. And that means you sell in intervals. Those intervals are dependent on certain things. Now, if we take the scenario of you looking at a time-based all-time high. So let's say you agree with me and we're going to go for November. And let's say, for argument's sake, it is November the 1st. We don't suddenly on November the 1st go from $96,000 for Bitcoin to $146,000 for Bitcoin. There is a run-up and there is a decline. Those two things happen. Now, you have roughly 8 weeks from noticing that this is the breakout towards all-time highs. You have 8 weeks to start the dollar cost averaging out and finishing it. And the reason is, I've looked at the previous 3 cycles and it's about 8 weeks. So you don't have to do it on one day. When we hit November 24, 2021, and we hit the all-time high then, there was a preceding 4 or 5 weeks where the price was running up. And then after the all-time high, there was a 4 or 5 week period where we started to decline. So you're never going to time the top. If the top this cycle is 150,000 and you average 135 or 140,000, you've done amazingly well. You've got within 10% of the all-time high. That's an incredible, incredible achievement. So what you do, let's say your portfolio is 100,000 and you want to get out. What you should be looking at is selling potentially 10 to 15% a week. Now, that means that you will be out in 6 to 10 weeks. Okay? Now, the reason I give you such a broad brushstroke there is because there will be times where you might not be able to catch the market. Maybe you're not at your laptop, whatever. So the reason that we look at 10 to 15% is 15% would be 6 weeks. 6 weeks to dollar cost average out. And 10% would be 10 weeks to dollar cost average out. And depending on where you think you've caught it, you can get out then. Now that's for the time based. That's if it's November. Now, if it's for your portfolio strategy and you want to get out, my advice is simple. You want to sell larger and larger chunks. So if your target is 100,000 and we're sitting at 105,000, you might want to take 25 to 50% off the table immediately because you're locking in the profits, you're locking in the gains. That's how I would look at that. For the resistance price, for moving away from the bull market support band, if we look at the technical analysis side, what you want to do there is say, okay, well, if we do get rejected, we don't go from 140,000 to 90,000 overnight either. So maybe we can apply the dollar cost average. Because remember, as we've seen in the last few weeks, Bitcoin can knock on a price several times before breaking it, as well as knocking on a price several times before breaking down. So look at, again, potentially a 6 to 8 week dollar cost average out over that time. So if your portfolio is 100,000, you want to be looking to sell, for argument's sake, 15,000 every week. 15%. So in week 1, if it's 105, in week 2, if it's 110, in week 3, if it's 115, you're not selling a number, you're selling a percentage, because you don't know what your portfolio is going to be worth in that week. Now, the reason that you dollar cost average is to get an average price for your Bitcoin and your crypto. Okay, you will hit some lower prices, but you potentially will also hit some higher prices. You will hit both ends. So think about that. Think about the fact that yes, if you want to, please feel free, sell everything. That's your choice. But dollar cost averaging out will give you a better price. Look at Michael Saylor dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. He owns over 500,000 Bitcoin. His average price is 60-odd thousand. He was buying it at 100,000. He was buying it at 90,000, but he was also buying it at 40 and 50,000. You want to do the same with your exit strategy. You want to sell at 120, 125, 130, maybe 110, maybe 105, and then you'll get out with an average of 125, whereas the all-time high may have been 140. By the time you've exited, the price of Bitcoin could be back below $100,000, and you're sitting on an average sell of 125. You should be feeling very happy with yourself. Nobody ever times the top. If people tell you they've timed the top, they've made many videos with different dates and different targets to say we hit it on this day, and then they deleted every other one. The same with people who tweet about it. So be careful believing that somebody can time it to the day. I believe people can time it to a month, obviously, or based on RSI, time it based on the charts, but I don't believe they can time the actual day. Now, that's the end of this breakdown. What am I personally going to do? I'm not going to sell until we get towards October or November. So I'm using a little bit of a cycle-based approach, but then I'm going to assess where we are with Bitcoin. Is the RSI overbought? Have we moved away from the bull market support band? Does it look like we're going in a exponentially higher and higher price? And then I'm going to assess it every week. The second that we start to go towards the target that I think we're going to go towards, that's when I'm going to start taking money off the table. That's when I'm going to start selling. Now, the alts do run as well as Bitcoin towards the end of the cycle, and I'm going to be really aggressive in selling my alts. So the likes of Ondo, the likes of Sol, the likes of Ethereum, I'm going to be getting out of them faster than I will be getting out of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a bigger market cap asset, and therefore it is slower towards the end of the bull run. So I'm going to dollar cost average out of my alts. Now, this is the caveat. If I make what I want to make from this bull run without selling my Bitcoin, I'm not selling my Bitcoin. I'm going to keep it. That's the key here. I'm going to keep my Bitcoin because it's the one true asset. But all of my alts will be sold. If I can sell enough alts to live comfortably for the next 10 years, I am out. I am done with alts for this cycle. And then I will buy back in the bear market. So that's my caveat, is Bitcoin might not get sold. So they are my 3 ways of getting out. Look at the analysis of the market. Look at the bull market support band, look at the RSI. That's number 1. Number 2 is you look at where we are in the cycle. Are we 4 years on? Are we 18 months on from the halving? And then finally, your portfolio, has it reached the goal you want it to get to? If you're sitting there saying to yourself, I don't have a goal in mind for my portfolio, that's perfectly fine. Not everybody out there can be Albert Einstein. Don't use that approach. Use the cyclical approach, or use common sense. If Bitcoin starts to blow up, sell. If Ethereum starts to blow up, sell. Take some profits, but sell using dollar cost average. And again, with dollar cost average, maybe you only need to sell half of your portfolio this cycle. That's fine. Anyway, that's the end of this video on the 3 ways I think you can get out of this market this cycle. We do think, in my opinion, over here that we have 6 months left. So thank you for watching to the end of this video. If you've not subscribed, please do so. My name is Mike. This is Crypto Warehouse. See you in the next video. Adios.